Black myth. Wukong system requirements. Does your PC have the minimum specs? Black myth. Wukong developer Game Science has been attempting to distance itself from the Soulslike comparisons of late, but even though the developer says that the upcoming action RPG isn't entirely a Soulslike, it is set to have a lot in common with the subgenre. Black myth. Wukong system requirements. Minimum, medium, 1080p. OS. Windows 10 64-bit. Processor. Intel Core i5-8400/AMD Ryzen 5 1600. GPU. NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1060/AMD Radeon RX 580. VRAM. 6 GB. System RAM. 16 GB. Storage. 130 GB. SSD preferred. Recommended. High. 1080p. OS. Windows 10 64-bit. Processor. Intel Core i7-9700/AMD Ryzen 5 5500. GPU. NVIDIA GeForce RTX 2060/AMD Radeon RX 5700 XT/Intel Arc A750. VRAM. 6 GB. System RAM. 16 GB. Storage. 130 GB. SSD preferred. Ultra, very high 4K. OS. Windows 10 64-bit. Processor. Intel Core i7-9700/AMD Ryzen 5 5500. GPU. NVIDIA GeForce RTX 4070/AMD Radeon RX 7800 XT. VRAM. 12 GB. System RAM. 16 GB. Storage. 130 GB. SSD preferred. Game Science has also revealed some additional minimum and recommended specs for anyone planning to play Black Myth. Wukong with ray tracing, a visually impressive but graphically intensive rendering option that significantly reduces performance, but also results in far more realistic lighting. Game Science confirmed that Black Myth. Wukong won't allow players to change the difficulty, while players can also expect varying levels of challenge across the length of the experience. As per the studio, there will be plenty of boss encounters that will involve a lot of trial and error, which means, similar to Soulslikes, you can expect plenty of deaths to tough bosses. You can't change the difficulty, but the difficulty doesn't remain the same for the whole game, Game Science said. The philosophy is that players fight like a hero. When we were developing the game, we had to make a lot of hard choices. The route we chose was to make the player have lots of tries so that after each battle they could think about what is the best combat method for this fight specifically. Black Myth. Wukong ray tracing requirements. Minimum, medium, 1080p, ray tracing low. OS. Windows 10 64-bit. Processor. Intel Core i5-9400/AMD Ryzen 5 1600. GPU. NVIDIA GeForce RTX 3060. VRAM. 8 GB. System RAM. 16 GB. Storage. 130 GB. SSD preferred. Recommended, medium, 1080p, ray tracing medium. OS. Windows 10 64-bit. Processor. Intel Core i7-9700/AMD Ryzen 5 5500. GPU. NVIDIA GeForce RTX 4060. VRAM. 8 GB. System RAM. 16 GB. Storage. 130 GB. SSD preferred. Ultra, high 4K, ray tracing very high. OS. Windows 10 64-bit. Processor. Intel Core i7-9700/AMD Ryzen 5 5500. GPU. NVIDIA GeForce RTX 4080 Super. VRAM. 16 GB. System RAM. 32 GB. Storage. 130 GB. SSD preferred. All in all, there's a huge range of specs here, Though the good news for PC gamers is that Black Myth has very accessible baseline CPU and GPU requirements in the Intel Core i5-8400 and NVIDIA's GeForce GTX 1060, respectively, and their AMD counterparts. The 16GB RAM requirement is rather high. However, most games generally have a base requirement of half that memory, as is the need for 130GB of free space on a hard drive.